Space had a way of making every civilization feel small. From the observation deck of the Dominion Military Academy, stars stretched endlessly in every direction, glowing like scattered diamonds across an ocean of darkness. Massive battleships drifted around the Academy station in disciplined formations while sleek transports arrived almost every hour, carrying the brightest young minds from across known space. For over 8,000 years, the Dominion Military Academy had produced the officers who commanded the galaxy's greatest fleets. Graduating from this academy meant honor. Failing meant disgrace. Today, hundreds of first-year cadets stood beneath towering banners displaying the emblems of nearly 50 alien civilizations. Some towered over 3 meters tall with armored exoskeletons that shimmered beneath the station lights. Others possessed 4 arms designed for combat, while a few floated silently using anti-gravity harnesses instead of legs. Every species represented the pinnacle of evolution on its homeworld. Except one. Standing alone near the back of the formation was a single human. Cadet Ethan Ryder adjusted the collar of Earth's newly designed Academy uniform and ignored the whispers spreading through the crowd. So that's the human? They're smaller than I imagined. I heard their species still uses chemical explosives. They evolved on a Class 3 world. No wonder they're so primitive. The comments drifted through the room without anyone bothering to lower their voices. Ethan had expected this. Earth had only joined the Galactic Dominion 2 years earlier. Humanity wasn't respected. Not yet. To most of the galaxy, humans were simply another young species that had somehow stumbled into interstellar politics decades before they were truly ready. He could have argued. He could have defended his people. Instead, he remained silent. Back on Earth, his grandfather had given him only one piece of advice before he left. Respect isn't demanded, Ethan. It's earned. That sentence echoed in his mind as enormous academy doors opened. A deep mechanical voice filled the chamber. Welcome. Cadets. The room instantly fell silent. Headmaster Val entered with deliberate steps. The towering alien silver scales reflected the overhead lights, while countless medals covered the dark uniform stretched across his broad chest. Behind him marched instructors from nearly every major Dominion species. We are not interested in your family's influence. We are not interested in your wealth. We are not interested in your homeworld. His golden eyes slowly scanned the assembled cadets. We care only about one question. Can you survive? No one spoke. No one even breathed loudly. Over 70% of you will never graduate. The announcement sent nervous glances through the crowd. Some will fail. Some will quit. And some. His voice became colder. Will discover that the galaxy is far less forgiving than their home planets. Training began immediately. There were no welcoming ceremonies.
No celebrations.
Only tests. The first evaluation appeared deceptively simple. Each cadet had to complete an obstacle course while carrying a weighted tactical pack designed specifically for their own species. The horn sounded. Dozens of cadets exploded forward. 4-legged warriors sprinted across vertical walls. Winged species leaped enormous gaps. Heavy reptilian soldiers smashed directly through barriers instead of climbing them. Ethan ran with everything he had. His breathing remained steady as he crossed the first section, vaulted a low wall, and climbed a cargo tower using handholds carved into reinforced alloy. For a brief moment, he was keeping pace. Then the gravity increased. Hidden generators activated beneath the course. Most alien species barely reacted. Ethan felt like someone had suddenly chained several tons onto his shoulders. His legs trembled. Every step became agony. Around him, laughter erupted. The humans slowing down. I thought predators from Earth were supposed to be dangerous. Maybe gravity is too advanced for his species. One towering cadet deliberately shoved Ethan while passing. The impact sent him crashing into the ground. Dust exploded across the training field. Several cadets burst into open laughter. Ethan pushed himself back to his feet without saying a word. His palms were bleeding. His shoulder screamed in pain. But he kept moving. Slowly. One painful step after another. He crossed the finish line nearly 15 minutes after everyone else. Instructor Core didn't even try hiding his disappointment. A predictable result. His data tablet projected Ethan's statistics into the air. Strength, below Academy average. Speed, below Academy average. Reaction time, acceptable.
Combat efficiency, unverified.
The instructor looked directly at Ethan. It would appear humanity exaggerated its capabilities during Dominion negotiations. More laughter. Ethan stood silently. Inside. Every insult burned. But anger wouldn't help him. Not here. Not yet. Over the following weeks, the pattern continued. Marksmanship tests.
Zero gravity combat.
Fleet simulations. Tactical exercises. Whenever Ethan performed reasonably well, instructors quietly increased the difficulty. Whenever another cadet failed, they received additional training. Whenever Ethan failed, the room filled with amused whispers. Even the instructors began treating him differently. Observe the human's mistake. Notice his inefficient movement. This is why inexperienced civilizations should avoid military leadership. The words stung. Not because they were true, because everyone else believed they were. Late one evening, Ethan sat alone in the Academy Observatory overlooking the stars. His hands were wrapped in fresh bandages after another brutal training session. The automatic doors slid open behind him. A gentle voice interrupted the silence. You're still here. Ethan turned. A maintenance drone floated into the room, followed by an elderly academy caretaker from a small insectoid species. Unlike everyone else. She didn't laugh. She simply handed him a warm drink. You remind me of another cadet. There was another human? She chuckled softly. No. Someone else who arrived carrying the weight of an entire civilization. Ethan looked back toward the stars. I don't know how much longer I can keep proving people right. The caretaker smiled kindly. Sometimes. The strongest people are the ones everyone mistakes for the weakest. Before Ethan could respond, footsteps echoed outside. Voices. Several cadets. They hadn't noticed him. The human is embarrassing the academy. He'll never graduate. We should convince the council to remove him. Not remove. Another voice lowered to a whisper. Select him. The group laughed quietly before disappearing down the corridor. Ethan frowned. Select him. Select him for what? The next morning, every cadet assembled inside the Grand Council chamber. The atmosphere felt different. Even the instructors looked unusually serious. Headmaster Val stood before the massive Dominion emblem. The Academy Council has reached a unanimous decision. Silence spread through the chamber. There exists an ancient Academy tradition. His expression revealed nothing. A punishment reserved only for cadets judged beyond redemption. A hologram appeared above the chamber. A black planet slowly rotated in space, covered in crimson storms, scarred by endless mountain ranges, even from orbit. It looked hostile. The world designated. Headmaster Val paused. Karos 9. Whispers immediately swept across the chamber. Several alien cadets visibly paled. One actually stepped backward. Val's voice echoed through the enormous hall. Cadet Ethan Ryder. Every eye turned toward the lone human. You have been. A long silence followed. Selected. Silence. The Grand Council chamber had been filled with whispers only seconds ago. Yet now even the station's ventilation seemed to stop. Every eye remained fixed on Ethan Ryder. Some cadets stared in disbelief. Others looked relieved. A few couldn't hide their satisfaction. Headmaster Val allowed the silence to linger before speaking again. Cadet Ethan Ryder, under Article 17 of the Dominion Military Charter, the Academy Council has unanimously authorized your transfer to Karos 9. His voice carried throughout the chamber. The sentence is effective immediately. Ethan didn't move. Didn't protest. Didn't plead. The reaction confused almost everyone present. A reptilian cadet named Zorkaya leaned toward one of his classmates. Why isn't he begging? The four-armed cadet beside him swallowed nervously. Because he doesn't understand what Karos 9 is. Another instructor stepped forward and activated the enormous holographic projector suspended above the chamber. The crimson planet slowly rotated in the darkness. Even from orbit, it looked wrong. Entire continents were covered in black jungles. Mountain ranges split apart by glowing rivers of magma stretched across its surface. Lightning storms circled the equator without ever fading. Dark clouds swallowed almost half the world. A murmur swept through the chamber. Instructor Core began speaking. Karos 9 was discovered over 4,000 years ago. The first exploration fleet consisted of 27 vessels. The hologram shifted. 27 green markers approached the planet. Then, one after another, the markers vanished. None returned. Another image appeared. The second expedition deployed autonomous combat drones. Thousands of icons descended toward the planet. Every signal disappeared. Third expedition. More ships. More losses.
No requi.
No distress calls.
No survivors.
The hologram dimmed. It is officially classified as an Omega Deathworld. One cadet slowly raised a trembling hand. Sir, what exactly lives down there? Core hesitated. As far as Dominion science can determine everything. The room became uncomfortably quiet. Another display illuminated the chamber. Massive predators larger than military dropships tore apart armored creatures with jaws lined by rows of crystalline teeth. Towering forests released clouds of toxic spores capable of dissolving biological tissue. Entire valleys shifted as though the ground itself were alive. Gigantic vines wrapped around armored survey vehicles before crushing them like paper. Then came footage that disturbed even veteran instructors. A forest. Thinking. Sensors recorded fungal networks communicating across hundreds of kilometers. The jungle wasn't merely alive. It was aware. Cadets instinctively stepped backward. What kind of planet is this? Another instructor answered quietly. One that never wanted visitors. The images continued. Storms powerful enough to flip armored transports. Acid rain. Earthquakes. Creatures hunting creatures already capable of destroying tanks. Finally, the display froze on a single statistic. Confirmed survivor 0. Not one. Not ever. Even the cadets who had secretly celebrated Ethan's exile suddenly looked uncomfortable. Zorkaya lowered his voice. We didn't think. His friend interrupted. It doesn't matter now. It was the council's decision. But neither sounded convinced anymore. Headmaster Val dismissed the hologram. There will be no rescue operation. No communication.
No extraction.
The sentence is irreversible. His golden eyes settled on Ethan. Do you understand? Ethan answered calmly. Yes, sir. Again.
No panic. No shouting. No desperate bargaining.
Only quiet acceptance. The instructors exchanged puzzled glances. Korn narrowed his eyes. You are aware that every known expedition has failed? I am. You understand no cadet has ever returned? I do. And yet. The instructor folded his arms. You remain unusually calm. For the first time since entering the chamber. A faint smile appeared on Ethan's face. It isn't the first dangerous world humanity has lived on. Several cadets laughed. One barked loudly. Earth. That tourist planet? Another shook his head. I heard humans build cities next to oceans. How dangerous could it possibly be? Ethan looked around the room. He wasn't offended. If anything. He almost felt sorry for them. You think danger only comes from giant monsters? No one replied. Our oceans hide predators larger than your transports. Some animals kill with venom so powerful a single bite ends a life. We have forests where you can lose yourself forever. Mountains that freeze people. Deserts hot enough to cook flesh. Hurricanes. Earthquakes. Tsunamis. Diseases too small to see. He paused. And every day billions of humans wake up, go to work, raise families, laugh, argue, dream, and do it all again tomorrow. The chamber fell completely silent. No one had ever described Earth that way. To the Dominion. Earth had always been listed as merely a Class 3 inhabited world. For humans. It had always been home. Instructor Kor frowned. If what you say is true, why would anyone willingly remain there? Ethan answered without hesitation. Because it's ours.
No arrogance.
No prideful speech. Just simple truth. Something about that answer unsettled the instructors more than any boast could have. The elderly caretaker who had spoken with Ethan the previous evening watched quietly from the rear of the chamber. She smiled. Very few people noticed. Most aliens spent thousands of years making their world safer.
Humans.
Had learned to become stronger instead. Hours later, Ethan was escorted through the Academy's lower docking bays.
No chance.
No guards with drawn weapons. There was no need. No one had ever escaped this sentence. Beyond massive blast doors waited a single escape pod. Small. Scarred. Functional. Nothing more. One technician avoided making eye contact as he completed the launch checklist. I've prepared extra medical supplies. Another quietly added an additional water purifier. Neither spoke aloud. Neither wanted to admit they pitted him. As Ethan climbed into the pod, Headmaster Val approached one final time. I have commanded this academy for 112 years. His voice carried genuine curiosity now. I have watched thousands of cadets face impossible odds. They all showed fear. He studied Ethan carefully. You do not. Ethan secured the final restraint across his chest. Oh, I'm afraid. Val looked surprised. Then why hide it? Ethan stared through the pod's forward window toward the crimson planet hanging like a distant wound against the stars. My grandfather used to tell me something. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's deciding something else matters more. For several long seconds. Neither man spoke. Then the blast doors opened. Warning sirens echoed across the docking bay. The launch computer counted down. 10. The engines awakened. 9. Technicians stepped back. 8. Cadets gathered behind reinforced observation glass. Some watched with satisfaction. Others with guilt. A few. With unexpected respect. 7. The clamps released. 6. Ethan closed his eyes for a single heartbeat. Not to pray. To remember. His family. Earth. Blue skies. Zen. The smell of pine forests. Children laughing in city parks. Everything he might never see again. He opened his eyes. I'm ready. 5. 4. 3. The escape pod shot from the Academy station like a silver bullet. Stars stretched into brilliant lines. The massive crimson sphere of Karos 9 rapidly grew larger. Warning alarms immediately began screaming. Gravitational capture detected. Flames erupted across the pod's heat shield. Outside the viewport. The atmosphere of the deadliest world in known space rose to meet him like an open mouth. And Ethan Ryder began his descent. Fire swallowed the escape pod. Ethan gripped the crash restraints as warning alarms screamed without pause. Hull temperature critical. External pressure rising. Navigation failure. The small vessel shook so violently his teeth rattled. Outside the viewport, nothing existed except an ocean of burning crimson. Plasma rolled across the pod like waves crashing against stone. Every few seconds lightning burst through the clouds, illuminating impossible mountains below. So this is Karos 9. He almost laughed. You're certainly making an entrance. The onboard computer answered with its calm synthetic voice. Impact estimated in 23 seconds. The pod burst through the final cloud layer. The world below looked alive. Not simply inhabited. Alive. Black forests stretched farther than Ethan could see, their canopies moving like waves despite the complete absence of wind. Rivers glowed an eerie blue, winding through valleys filled with towering crystal formations. Massive creatures moved beneath the trees, visible only as enormous shadows. Then something crossed beneath him. Something so large the pod sensors briefly identified it as terrain. The object moved. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. That wasn't a mountain. The computer remained silent. A violent explosion rocked the escape pod. One of the maneuvering thrusters failed. The pod spun uncontrollably. Trees rushed toward him. The impact came like a hammer. Metal screamed. Branches shattered. The pod bounced once. Twice. Then crashed through the trunk of a colossal tree before finally sliding to a stop in thick moss. Silence. Only the sound of cooling metal echoed through the cabin. For several long seconds, Ethan simply breathed. He was alive. Bruised. Shaken. But alive. The hatch refused to open on the first attempt. He kicked it. Once. Twice. On the third strike, the emergency bolts released with a loud hiss. Humid air flooded inside. It smelled of rain, rich soil, flowering plants. And something ancient. Ethan climbed out carefully. Above him, trees stretched hundreds of meters into the sky. Their branches intertwined so densely that daylight filtered through in scattered emerald beams. Plants glowed softly beneath enormous leaves. Tiny insects floated through the air like drifting stars. It was beautiful. Until he noticed the silence.
No birds. No buzzing.
No distant calls. Nothing. It was the kind of silence predators created. His academy survival training returned instantly. Don't panic. Observe first. Move later. He slowly knelt and examined the ground. Fresh claw marks. Broken branches. Something heavy had passed nearby. Very recently. Instead of wandering aimlessly, Ethan climbed onto the remains of the damaged escape pod for a better view. Smoke rose through the jungle canopy. Far beyond the trees, he spotted higher ground. If I were looking for fresh water. He studied the terrain. I'd follow gravity. Rather than sprinting into the unknown, Ethan spent the next several hours doing something no Dominion survival manual had ever recommended. He watched. He sat quietly beneath the wreckage, saying almost nothing. Creatures gradually emerged. Small six-legged herbivores cautiously entered a nearby clearing. Bright-winged insects landed on glowing flowers before disappearing again. A snake-like animal slithered across a fallen log, ignoring Ethan completely. The jungle slowly resumed breathing. Only after observing the rhythm of the forest did he begin moving. Every few dozen steps he stopped. Listened. Smelled the air. Checked the direction of the wind. His grandfather had once taught him while hiking through Earth's mountains. The forest always talks. You just have to stop talking long enough to hear it. Hours later, Ethan reached a stream flowing between smooth black stones. He tested the water. Clear. Cold. Fast-moving. Safer than stagnant pools. He still purified it anyway. Never trust unfamiliar ecosystems. As evening approached, he searched for shelter. Rather than sleeping inside a cave, which could already belong to something much larger, he selected a rocky outcrop overlooking the stream. Only one path led upward. Good. Fewer directions to defend. Using broken sections of the escape pod, flexible vines, and sturdy branches, Ethan constructed a small linter. Nothing impressive. Just enough to block rain and conceal his silhouette. He gathered dry wood. Built a tiny smokeless fire using techniques learned during wilderness training back on Earth. The flame burned low. Almost invisible. Warm enough to survive. Too small to attract unnecessary attention. Night arrived quickly. Darkness swallowed the jungle. Then, the sounds began. Deep roars echoed somewhere beyond the trees. Something screamed. Another creature answered. The ground vibrated. Branches cracked in the distance. Predators were hunting. Ethan remained perfectly still. His heartbeat slowed. Fear was natural. Panic was fatal. Hours passed. The noises gradually moved away. At some point, exhaustion finally overtook him. He fell asleep beside the fading embers. High above the camp. Golden eyes opened. Hidden among impossibly thick branches stood a creature unlike anything the Dominion had ever recorded. Its shoulders were taller than Ethan's shelter. Dark fur blended seamlessly with the shadows. Massive curved horns framed a face lined with ancient scars. Every muscle beneath its hide suggested terrifying strength. One leap. One bite. One swipe. And the human would disappear forever. The creature watched. Completely silent. Its pupils narrowed. It inhaled deeply, testing the unfamiliar scent carried by the night breeze. Human. It had never smelled one before. For several long moments it remained motionless. Then, without making a sound, it turned away and vanished into the darkness. Morning sunlight filtered through the canopy. Ethan awoke to birdsong, or at least the closest equivalent this strange planet possessed. He stretched carefully. Still alive. He smiled. Day 2. The fire had burned itself out. Nothing had disturbed his camp. He packed his equipment and stepped outside his shelter. Then he froze. The smile disappeared. The ground surrounding his camp had been covered during the night. Not with dozens of tracks. Not with hundreds. With one set. Enormous footprints circled his shelter in a perfect ring. Each print was longer than his entire body. Something unimaginably large had walked around him. Again. And again. While he slept, Ethan stared at the massive footprints circling his camp. He didn't reach for a weapon. Instead, he crouched beside the nearest print and studied it the way his grandfather had taught him years ago during hikes through Earth's forests. Every track tells a story, the old ranger had always said. Most people looked at footprints and saw where an animal had been. A tracker looked at them and saw what the animal had been thinking. Ethan brushed loose dirt away with 2 fingers. The soil was compressed nearly 30 centimeters deep. Whatever had made this track weighed several tons. But something else caught his attention. The spacing. The creature had slowed as it approached the camp. It hadn't been charging. It had been walking. Carefully. Curiously. It had completed a perfect circle around his shelter before disappearing back into the jungle. It hadn't crossed into the center. It hadn't attacked. It hadn't even investigated the food hanging from a nearby branch. It had simply watched. "You're not hunting me," Ethan whispered. "So what are you doing?" The jungle offered no answer. Over the next several days, Ethan stopped treating the mysterious visitor as an invisible monster. Instead, he treated it like any cautious wild animal. He never left scraps of food around camp. He avoided sudden noises. He made sure every fire remained small. Each evening he deliberately spoke aloud while repairing tools or preparing dinner. "If you're listening." He smiled faintly. "Today I finally figured out which berries aren't poisonous." Silence. The next night. "I also learned that blue rivers don't always mean safe water." Nothing. On the 3rd night. "I'm Ethan." Still no response. Yet every morning. Fresh footprints surrounded the camp. Always the same careful circle. Always at night. Never closer than a few meters. Life gradually settled into a routine. The crash site became less of a prison and more of a home. Using fragments from the escape pod, Ethan built better tools. He created fishing spears from lightweight alloys. Collected rainwater inside enormous leaf funnels. Constructed warning lines made from braided vines that rattled tiny metal fragments whenever something disturbed them. Most importantly, he learned. Every sunrise revealed another lesson. Some flowers opened only when dangerous insects approached. Small grazing animals always looked uphill before running. The strange glowing moss became brighter several minutes before rainstorms. Patterns. Nature always left clues. Humans survived because they learned to notice them. On the 7th morning, those patterns vanished. The birds never sang. The insects disappeared. Even the flowing streams sounded quieter. The silence was complete. Not peaceful. Waiting. Ethan slowly stood. His instinct screamed that something was wrong. Then, a roar shook the valley. It wasn't the triumphant roar of a predator claiming victory. It was pain. Raw. Violent. Desperate. A second roar answered. Far deeper. Far angrier. Trees began crashing somewhere beyond the ridge. The ground trembled beneath Ethan's boots. A fight. Between giants. Every survival instinct demanded he move in the opposite direction. He actually turned to leave. Then another sound reached him. A lower growl. Weak. Fading. He closed his eyes. "Oh, come on." He sighed. "I really know how to make bad decisions." Grabbing the nearly empty medical kit from his pack, he started toward the battle. The jungle looked as though a hurricane had torn through it. Ancient trees had been ripped from the earth. Their roots hung in the air like broken bones. Stone pillars lay shattered across the forest floor. Massive claw marks carved through solid rock. Whatever had happened here. No weapon the Dominion possessed could have produced such destruction. Dark silver blood stained everything. The trail was impossible to miss. Ethan followed it cautiously. Every few steps he stopped to listen. Nothing. Not even scavengers had approached yet. That meant the victor was probably still nearby. His pulse quickened. He rounded one final cluster of broken trees. Then froze. The giant creature from the footprints lay beneath a collapsed stone arch. It was even larger than Ethan had imagined. Nearly 4 meters tall at the shoulder. Its black fur was soaked with silver blood. Curved horns framed a broad head covered in old scars. One foreleg was twisted unnaturally. A massive wound crossed its chest where something enormous had nearly torn it open. The creature opened one golden eye. Recognition flashed across it. Then it growled. Not aggressively. Warningly. "Stay back." Ethan slowly raised both empty hands. "I'm not here to hurt you." The growl deepened. The beast tried to stand. Pain shot through its body. It collapsed immediately. Its breathing became ragged. Blood continued flowing. Without treatment, it wouldn't survive much longer. Ethan looked around. No sign of whatever had attacked it. Still, the smell of fresh blood would attract predators soon. He made a decision. One that every academy instructor would have called insanity. He unclipped the survival knife from his belt. The beast's ears flattened instantly. Its lips pulled back, revealing fangs longer than Ethan's forearm. Rather than tightening his grip, Ethan gently placed the knife on the ground, then stepped away from it. "I'm not going to fight you." Slowly, he removed his medical kit instead. Bandages, antiseptic, sealant foam, pain suppressants. Enough supplies to keep one human alive for several weeks. If he used them now, he might not survive his own next injury. He hesitated for only a second, then knelt beside the wounded giant. Cleaning the wound proved nearly impossible. The creature flinched every time Ethan touched the torn flesh. Several times it let out deep growls that vibrated through the ground. Each time, Ethan simply paused. I'm almost done. I know it hurts. The beast stared at him, confused. No creature on Karos 9 behaved this way. Predators killed weakness. They didn't protect it. Ethan flushed dirt and broken fragments from the wound. Applied every tube of medical sealant he had. Wrapped enormous pressure bandages using emergency fabric reinforced with broad medicinal leaves he had discovered earlier that week. Hours passed beneath the humid jungle canopy. By the time he finished, his medical pouch was almost empty. He leaned back against a fallen tree, exhausted. That's the best I've got. I hope your biology likes human medicine. The giant predator slowly lifted itself onto trembling legs. For one terrifying moment, Ethan thought it might attack. Instead, the beast took a single step toward him. Then another. Its enormous head lowered until its golden eyes met his. They remained that way for several silent seconds. No fear.
No hatred.
Only curiosity. Then, with surprising gentleness, the creature lowered its forehead until it briefly touched Ethan's shoulder. Just once. A gesture so light that anyone watching would have missed it. Before Ethan could react, the giant turned and disappeared into the trees. The following morning, Ethan discovered something strange. Outside his shelter lay a fresh carcass. A deer-like herbivore nearly twice the size of a horse. Untouched. Perfectly clean. No scavengers had approached it. Beside it, the familiar giant footprints. Ethan folded his arms. So, you really do know how to say thank you. He couldn't help smiling. The gifts continued. One morning it was fruit growing high in poisonous trees. Another day it was clean spring water trapped inside crystal-like shells. Several times fresh fish appeared beside the stream before Ethan had even begun fishing. The giant never stayed. It always vanished before he could see it. Days turned into weeks. Trust wasn't built through dramatic moments. It grew quietly. One gift at a time. One shared silence at a time. Eventually, the beast stopped hiding. One evening Ethan looked up from sharpening a spear. The giant sat peacefully beyond the firelight. Watching. Not hunting. Simply existing. You know, Ethan said while continuing his work. You're probably the only friend I've got on this planet. The beast blinked slowly. Its ears flicked once. That was all. Strangely, it felt like enough. When Ethan walked to the river the next morning, soft footsteps echoed behind him. The giant followed. Not as a guard. Not as a master. As a companion. Neither of them noticed what was happening beyond the valley. Pack hunters abandoned territories they had defended for generations. Winged predators changed their migration routes. Creatures that had never shared hunting grounds began gathering together in unusual silence. The jungle itself seemed to be passing along an invisible message. Something impossible had happened. The apex predator had accepted the human. And the rest of Karos 9 was beginning to respond. 3 days later, Ethan entered a narrow canyon in search of medicinal plants. The air suddenly filled with movement. Hundreds of eyes opened among the rocks. Venomous reptiles emerged from hidden cracks. Massive insect colonies climbed over stone walls. Fanged predators stepped silently from the shadows. Every escape route vanished. Even Ethan's breathing slowed. He knew there was no fighting his way out. Then the giant beast calmly walked past him. It stopped in the center of the canyon. Raised its head. Released one deep, resonant growl. Not loud. Not threatening. Certain. The reaction was immediate. One by one, the predators lowered their heads. The reptiles withdrew into the rocks. The insects retreated beneath the ground. Winged hunters folded their wings. A clear path slowly opened through the canyon. Hundreds of deadly creatures. And not a single one attacked Ethan. The canyon remained silent long after the last predator disappeared into the shadows. Ethan stood motionless. His heartbeat slowly returned to normal, but his mind refused to accept what he had just witnessed. Hundreds of hunters. Creatures that had evolved on the deadliest world in known space. Had simply stepped aside. Not because of fear. Because of the enormous beast standing quietly beside him. The giant predator glanced toward Ethan before turning deeper into the canyon. It took a few steps. Stopped. Looked back. Almost. Waiting. Ethan frowned. You want me to follow? The beast blinked once. Then continued walking. After everything they had been through together, Ethan trusted it more than his own instincts. He adjusted his pack and followed. The canyon narrowed until sunlight barely reached the ground. Ancient stone walls towered hundreds of meters overhead. Strange glowing vines clung to the cliffs, casting pale blue light over the narrow path. The deeper they traveled, the stranger the jungle became. There were no predators. No insects. Not even the wind. It was as though the entire forest respected this place. Or feared it. Ethan noticed something carved into the stone beside the path. Perfectly straight lines. Impossible angle. He brushed away centuries of moss. This isn't natural. More markings appeared farther ahead. Then another. And another. Not erosion. Architecture. Someone had built this. Millions of roots had hidden it beneath the jungle for ages. Hours passed before the canyon finally opened into an enormous valley. Ethan stopped walking. His breath caught. The entire valley floor was covered by ruins. Towering black spires leaned at impossible angles. Broken bridges stretched across deep chasms. Massive statues lay shattered beneath gigantic trees whose roots had slowly claimed them over countless ages. Nature hadn't destroyed this city. It had buried it. The beast continued forward without hesitation. It knew exactly where it was going. Ethan slowly followed. The closer he looked, the stranger everything became. The buildings showed no signs of corrosion.
No rust. No weathering.
They looked preserved, as though they had been waiting for someone. At the center of the city stood a circular structure unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Half temple, half machine. Its smooth black surface reflected the surrounding jungle despite being covered by thousands of years of moss. The enormous predator stopped before the entrance. It lowered its head. Not in exhaustion. Not in submission. Respect. Then it quietly stepped aside. Ethan stared. You brought me here. The beast remained silent. Only its golden eyes watched him. Taking a slow breath, Ethan climbed the ancient stairs. Each step echoed across the empty valley. Dust drifted through shafts of emerald light filtering down from the broken ceiling. Inside, the air felt different. Cool. Still. Untouched. Rows of enormous pillars surrounded a circular chamber. Symbols covered every surface. They weren't Dominion writing, nor anything from Earth. Yet somehow, they seemed strangely familiar. At the center stood a single black pedestal. Nothing else.
No treasure.
No weapons.
No machinery.
Just a smooth platform. Ethan circled it cautiously.
No traps.
He laughed softly. That's suspicious. As he placed one hand on the pedestal, the entire chamber exploded with light. A deep vibration rolled beneath his feet. Outside, the valley shook. Trees swayed violently. Dust poured from ancient ceilings. The giant beast lifted its head toward the sky and released a powerful roar. One by one, lights awakened throughout the buried city. Golden energy flowed beneath the stone streets like glowing rivers. Ancient towers illuminated. Collapsed gateways slowly began repairing themselves. Mechanical sounds echoed from beneath the ground. Systems that had slept for ages were waking. Miles away, creatures across the jungle suddenly stopped what they were doing. Flying predators landed. Pack hunters raised their heads. Gigantic herbivores turned toward the hidden valley. Even the intelligent fungal forests pulsed with faint waves of blue light. Something ancient had returned. The planet knew it. Inside the chamber, Ethan staggered backward as countless symbols appeared in the air around him. Holographic star maps rotated above the pedestal. Unknown constellations. Forgotten galaxies. Worlds no Dominion archive had ever recorded. His wrist scanner began emitting frantic warning tones. Unknown technology detected. Data overload. Language matrix. Failed. The display suddenly went dark. It couldn't understand any of it. Neither could Ethan. Yet, the glowing symbols slowly shifted, rearranging themselves, adapting, almost learning, one by one. The alien characters transformed into words he could read. English. Ethan's eyes widened. That's impossible. No one in the galaxy knew Earth languages except humanity. The pedestal answered. A thin beam of blue light swept slowly across Ethan's body from head to toe. His skin tingled. Another beam followed. Then another. The chamber filled with a calm mechanical voice. Biological scan initiated. Ethan instinctively stepped back. The voice continued. Genetic archive comparison. A pause. Then, comparison complete. Every light inside the chamber suddenly brightened. The giant doors behind Ethan sealed shut with a thunderous boom. Outside, the enormous beast quietly lay down before the entrance. As if standing guard, the hologram surrounding Ethan accelerated. Thousands of stars rotated above him. Ancient records flashed across the air. Images of worlds, cities, ships larger than moons, civilizations long forgotten. His scanner displayed only one message. Data unknown. Then the mechanical voice spoke again. Calm, ancient, patient, as though it had been waiting through millions of years of silence for this exact moment. Human genetic signature verified. Ethan's breath caught. What? Another pause. Then came the sentence that shattered everything humanity and the Dominion believed about their place in the galaxy. Welcome back, successor. The words echoed through the ancient chamber. Welcome back, successor. Ethan stood frozen. His heartbeat seemed louder than the humming machines awakening beneath the forgotten city. He looked around instinctively. I'm sorry. His voice echoed through the enormous hall. I think you've got the wrong person. Silence. Then the blue light surrounding the central pedestal pulsed once. The calm mechanical voice answered. Negative. Genetic verification complete. Human lineage confirmed. Thousands of holographic symbols drifted through the air like glowing snow before reorganizing into English once again. Ethan stared in disbelief. No one should know this language. The AI replied almost immediately. Correction. Language recognized. Language preserved. A faint vibration traveled through the floor beneath Ethan's boots. Ancient machines continued waking all around the buried city. The system had not made a mistake. It had been waiting. The chamber darkened. Then the holograms expanded until they surrounded Ethan completely. Stars appeared above him. Entire galaxies unfolded around the room. Worlds rose and disappeared. Civilizations flickered into existence before collapsing into dust. The display stopped on a single blue-green planet. Not Earth. A different world. Mountains pierced thick cloud layers. Volcanoes covered entire continents. Gigantic predators hunted across vast plains. Violent electrical storms circled the equator. The AI spoke. Project Genesis. Objective. The image changed. To discover the civilization capable of surviving the impossible. Dozens of intelligent alien species appeared. Some Ethan recognized from the Dominion. Others had vanished from history. One by one. Each civilization was placed on increasingly hostile experimental worlds. At first they flourished. Then they adapted their environments. Predators were eliminated. Weather was controlled.
Danger disappeared.
Progress stopped. The simulation ended. Failed another civilization. Another attempt. The same result. Again. 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 Thousands of species. Thousands of failures. Ethan frowned. They all tried to change the world. The AI answered. Affirmative. Environmental modification created dependency. Adaptive development terminated. Another world appeared. This one looked painfully familiar. Oceans. Forests, deserts. Ice caps. Earth. Primitive humans walked across endless grasslands carrying stone tools. Massive predators hunted nearby. Lightning ignited forests. Floods swept away settlements. Winter buried entire regions beneath snow. Yet the humans endured. Not because they dominated nature. Because they learned from it. The holograms accelerated. Stone became bronze. Bronze became steel. Ships crossed oceans. Cities rose. Aircraft filled the skies. Spacecraft escaped Earth's gravity. The AI continued. Species designation. Humanity. A glowing line appeared beneath the image. Observation period. 312,000 years. Ethan's breath caught. You've been watching us. Affirmative. The star map shifted again. This time showing Kairos 9. Except. It looked different. The jungles were younger. The mountains untouched. The rivers flowed along different paths. The AI spoke with the same emotionless precision. Kairos 9 was not discovered. A pause. It was created. The enormous chamber trembled. Outside, distant towers continued awakening. What do you mean, created? The answer arrived without hesitation. Artificial evolutionary world. Purpose. The hologram zoomed toward the planet. To produce adaptation beyond conventional biological limits. The Deathworld had never been natural. It had been engineered. Every predator. Every poisonous plant. Every violent storm. Every impossible ecosystem. Designed. Ethan slowly looked around the ancient city. So this entire planet is one giant experiment? Affirmative. Images flooded the chamber. The ancient builders. Tall. Elegant. Neither human nor any known Dominion species. They seeded life across Kairos 9. Then. They made it harder. Predators became stronger. Diseases evolved faster. Weather grew more violent. Every generation increased the challenge. Only creatures capable of constant adaptation survived. Millions of years passed in moments. Species rose. Species vanished. The strongest often disappeared first. The most adaptable endured. Ethan whispered almost to himself. Survival wasn't about strength. The AI answered immediately. Correct. Strength is temporary. Adaptation is permanent. Another projection appeared. This one surprised Ethan more than anything else. The enormous black beast. His companion. The AI identified it instantly. Guardian-class apex predator. Final ecological authority. The hologram revealed countless generations of the same species. Each leader had evaluated every dominant creature on the planet. Not through combat. Through behavior. The Guardians observed. They remembered. They judged. Ethan looked toward the sealed entrance where the giant beast patiently waited outside. It never hunted me. The AI replied. It evaluated you. Another memory appeared. Ethan cleaning the creature's wound. Giving away his medical supplies. Risking his own survival. The AI froze the image. Leadership assessment. Result. A pause. Accepted. The chamber filled with hundreds of recordings. Different intelligent species. Different explorers. Some had tried to tame the Guardians. Others attempted to kill them. Many sought to dominate the Deathworld. Every attempt ended the same way. Failure. Then Ethan's actions appeared again. Not attacking. Observing. Learning migration routes. Building shelter instead of fortresses. Respecting the ecosystem. Helping a wounded predator that could easily have killed him. The AI spoke with absolute certainty. Subject demonstrates primary founder characteristic. Ethan frowned. What characteristic? The answer was immediate. Cooperation with adversity. Not conquering. Not destroying. Understanding. The holograms shifted one final time. Human history appeared beside every other known civilization. Complex mathematical comparisons filled the air. Rates of innovation. Recovery after disasters. Biological adaptation. Problem solving under stress. Every graph ended the same way. Humanity stood alone. Not the strongest. Not the fastest. Not the most intelligent in raw processing power. But unmatched in one category. Learning speed. The AI summarized millions of years of observation in a single sentence. No recorded civilization adapts faster than humanity. Ethan felt a chill run through him. His grandfather had always believed humanity's greatest strength was stubbornness. Perhaps they had simply been calling adaptation by another name. The ancient voice continued. Karos 9 does not recognize kings through conquest. The chamber grew brighter. It recognizes leaders through survival, sacrifice, and coexistence. Outside, the giant guardian slowly raised its head. Across the jungle, predators emerged from forests. Winged creatures landed atop ruined towers. Massive herbivores gathered in silent circles. The entire planet seemed to awaken. Not because of Ethan alone. Because the genetic memory carried within humanity had returned after millions of years. The AI delivered its final revelation. The planet is not crowning Ethan Ryder. The holograms displayed Earth's blue oceans. Children laughing. Cities. Mountains. Ordinary people living ordinary lives. Then the image merged with Karos 9. The planet is crowning humanity. For a long moment, Ethan couldn't speak. Everything he believed about human history, about Earth's place in the galaxy, had changed forever. Then, without warning, every hologram inside the chamber turned crimson. A sharp alarm echoed through the ancient city. The calm voice changed for the first time. Urgency. Warning. A new projection appeared above the pedestal. Space. Orbit. Multiple starships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Military signatures. Weapons online. Dozens of Dominion warships. The RE's sensors identified them instantly. Incoming Galactic Dominion battle fleet detected. Silence had never frightened the galaxy. Not until Karos 9. Deep beneath the Academy's orbital observation array, hundreds of sensor technicians stared at their displays with growing confusion. What is that?
No idea.
I'm getting gravitic distortion. So am I. It isn't possible. Professor Varel pushed through the crowded control room, his four eyes narrowing as he examined the wall-sized holographic projection. Karos 9 rotated slowly in the center of the display, wrapped in layers of sensor data. Every few seconds, something pulsed. Not from orbit. Not from the atmosphere. From deep underground. A signal. Then another. Then thousands. Each one carried frequencies older than any known civilization.
Impossible, whispered Virel.
The nearest technician swallowed. Sir, these aren't communications. What are they? The young scientist hesitated. They are responses. The room became deathly quiet. Responses to what? No one answered. Because everyone already knew. The human. Across the Academy, emergency meetings erupted. Military observers demanded access to the classified scans. Scientists argued over impossible energy readings. Political delegates shouted accusations across circular chambers. The human activated something. He stole precursor technology. No individual could control artifacts of this magnitude. Unless he isn't alone. That suggestion froze the room. Images of Ethan standing before the ancient monolith replayed again and again. Each angle showed the same impossible event. The structures hadn't attacked him. They had welcomed him. That single realization terrified governments more than any weapon ever could. Because ancient technology could be stolen. Respect could not. Several thousand light-years away. Inside Dominion High Command. The atmosphere was considerably less academic. It was furious. Supreme Commander Drax slammed one armored fist onto the tactical table. The hologram shattered into static before reforming. I want answers. No one spoke. The intelligence officer finally stepped forward. Our spies confirm increased energy signatures across the planet. What kind? We don't know. What activated them? The human. Drax's jaw tightened. The same prisoner who escaped. Yes, Commander. The same prisoner who defeated arena champions. Yes. The same prisoner who survived Karos 9. Again. Yes. Silence stretched across the chamber. Every officer understood the implication. 3 impossible events. 1 human. That was no longer coincidence. It was a pattern. Drax slowly looked around the room. If the human has discovered ancient weapons. He leaned forward. Then they belong to the Dominion. Several admirals nodded immediately. Others looked less convinced. One elderly strategist cleared his throat. Commander. Perhaps negotiation. Drax's glare silenced him instantly. We do not negotiate with escaped prisoners. But if those signals represent defensive systems, then we take them before they're fully operational. The order came without hesitation. Assemble the 3rd Conquest Fleet. A ripple of surprise spread across the chamber. The entire fleet? Everything. That is enough firepower to invade civilizations. Drax smiled. Exactly. Hours later. The darkness of space trembled. Warp fractures opened like glowing wounds across the stars. One after another.
Massive Dominion warships emerged.
Battleships. Carriers. Cruisers. Destroyers. Escort frigates. Supply vessels. Drone platforms. Hundreds became thousands. Thousands formed perfect military formations. The invasion force stretched across millions of kilometers. Enough weapons to erase continents. Enough soldiers to conquer planets. The Third Conquest Fleet had never lost a campaign. Its commanders considered defeat mathematically impossible. Their destination. Karos 9. On the bridge of the flagship Iron Judgment. Fleet Admiral Korvac studied Ethan's file. He looked unimpressed. A single mammal. An intelligence officer nodded nervously. Officially, yes. Unofficially? The officer hesitated. He has survived every probability model. Korvac snorted. No one survives probability. He keeps doing it. Korvac closed the file. I don't fear legends. He looked toward the stars ahead. I erase them. Meanwhile, far below, Karos 9 had changed. The forests no longer felt hostile. They felt alive. The wind carried unfamiliar scents. Massive footprints crossed riverbeds. Entire valleys showed signs of movement. Even the ancient stone structures seemed brighter than before, as if the planet itself had awakened. Ethan stood on a rocky overlook beside the colossal alpha predator. The beast's enormous head remained lowered respectfully. Around them, thousands of creatures watched in absolute silence. Predators, flying nightmares, towering armored beasts, creatures whose existence defied biology itself. Every one of them waited. Not for instinct. For Ethan.
Lyra a prorocet kaušīsli.
I still can't believe this. Neither could Ethan. I didn't ask for this. I know. They keep following me. She glanced toward the endless sea of monsters. Following is an understatement. One of the enormous reptilian giants lowered itself beside Ethan like an obedient hound. Another carried bundles of fruit collected from distant forests. A six-legged predator gently deposited fresh water before stepping back.
Lyra bilinket.
They're feeding you. I noticed. Deathworld apex predators. She laughed in disbelief. Are bringing you lunch. Even Ethan couldn't help smiling. This is officially the weirdest week of my life. Several nearby creatures made soft rumbling sounds. Almost happy. Then everything changed. One enormous winged sentinel suddenly lifted its head. Its golden eyes narrowed toward the heavens. Another followed. Then another. Within seconds. Thousands of predators stopped moving simultaneously. Every ear twitched. Every head lifted. Every instinct focused upward. Ethan felt it before hearing it. A vibration. Very faint. Growing stronger.
Lyra aktivatet her scanner.
The display immediately flashed crimson.
No.
Her voice barely existed.
No.
Ethan looked over. What? She turned the scanner toward him. Hundreds of blue markers appeared in orbit. Then hundreds more. The count accelerated. 1,200. 2,000. 4,800. 9,000. The display stopped counting. Instead, unknown quantity. Lyra's breathing became uneven. The Dominion. Ethan looked toward the sky. They came. Orbit above Karos 9 exploded with light. Warp portals blossomed across the darkness. Gigantic warships emerged one after another until the stars themselves disappeared behind armored hulls. The invasion fleet surrounded the planet. Like wolves circling prey. Fleet Admiral Korvac observed the untouched wilderness below.
No orbitau defenses. No visible civilización. No fleet.
He smiled. The intelligence reports exaggerated. His communications officer interrupted. Sir, unusual life sign density. Clarify. The holographic map zoomed toward the planet's surface. Red markers covered nearly every continent.
Million.
Korvac frowned. Animals? Apparently. He shrugged. Ignore wildlife. His officers exchanged uncertain glances. One sensor specialist slowly raised a hand. Sir. Yes. They are moving. Toward what? The answer chilled the bridge. Toward us. Across every continent. The forests erupted. Mountains moved. Lakes exploded upward. Caves opened. Ancient ruins cracked apart. Creatures emerged from places no scanner had detected. Winged titans filled the skies. Colossal quadrupeds shook entire mountain ranges. Serpentine horrors burst from beneath oceans. Burrowing giants erupted through plains. The ground itself appeared alive. Every species. Every predator. Every guardian. Awakened. The Dominion watched in stunned silence. The numbers climbed faster than computers could calculate. 10 million. 30 million. 80 million. Hundreds of millions. Still climbing.
No.
One officer whispered. This can't be real. On the planet's surface. Ethan stared in every direction. He could no longer see the landscape. Only creatures. An endless living ocean stretching beyond every horizon. Their footsteps became thunder. Their breathing became wind. Their combined roars shook mountains. Lyra felt tears forming. She couldn't finish. There weren't enough numbers. The alpha predator beside Ethan slowly stood, then raised its massive head. A deep call echoed across the world. Instantly, millions of creatures fell completely silent. The sudden stillness felt almost supernatural. Every eye turned toward Ethan. Waiting. He swallowed. I think. His voice barely carried. They want instructions. Lyra looked at him with disbelief. They're waiting for you. Ethan looked across an army larger than entire civilizations. Creatures born to kill. Living weapons capable of shredding armored vehicles. And somehow, they trusted him. He took a slow breath, then raised one hand.
No shouting.
No dramatic speech. Just one calm gesture. Hold. The response was immediate. Millions of predators Saturday. The movement rolled across continents like synchronized waves. Every beast. Every titan. Every hunter. Obeyed. Perfectly. Aboard the Iron Judgment. Silence consumed the bridge. Korvac's confidence disappeared. He watched millions of monsters calmly obey a single human standing on a cliff. No technology. No visible control device. Just trust. One communications officer whispered, "They're following his commands." Another replied, "Every single one." The tactical AI recalculated invasion projections. Victory probability, 0. The number continued falling. Korvac stared at the display. For the first time in decades. Fear reached his eyes. "We're." He stopped. The words refused to come. One junior officer finally said them. "We are the ones surrounded." No one argued. Because it was true. The hunters had become the hunted. Light years away, Dominion High Command received the first live transmission. The chamber watched millions of apex predators standing in disciplined silence around one human. Supreme Commander Drax crushed the armrest beneath his grip. His advisors waited desperately for another strategy. There wasn't one. Only one option remained. Drax's face hardened into cold resolve. "If we cannot seize the planet." His voice echoed across the command chamber. "Then we erase it." Every officer froze.
Orbital bombardment.
Complete planetary sterilization. The order authorization beacon began to glow. And somewhere below, completely unaware that annihilation was seconds from being approved, Ethan looked up at the sky as the first targeting satellites shifted into firing position. The stars above Karos 9 disappeared behind the glow of charging weapons. Thousands of Dominion battleships rotated into firing formation with mechanical precision. Gigantic spinal cannons unfolded from armored hulls. Missile batteries extended. Orbital bombardment arrays hummed as unimaginable amounts of energy flooded into their capacitors. From the planet below, the heavens looked as though they had become a second sun. Only this sun promised extinction. Inside Dominion High Command, no one spoke. Supreme Commander Drax stood with both hands clasped behind his back, watching the tactical projection. One command. One sentence. One order. An entire world would vanish. Target confirmation? Locked. Planetary shield? None detected. Resistance? The tactical officer hesitated. Unprecedented. Drax frowned. "I asked for resistance, not poetry." The officer swallowed. "Commander, every lifeform on the surface has organized into defensive formations. That earned silence. They are coordinating?" "Yes." "How?" The officer looked down. "They appear to be following the human." Again. Always the human. Far below. Ethan stared upward. Thousands of bright lights drifted across the sky. Even without military training, he knew exactly what they meant. Bombardment. Earth had taught humanity many things. Among them, how to recognize the moments before everything changed forever. Lyra stepped beside him, her scanner trembling in her hands. "They're charging every primary weapon." "Time." She checked again. "Minutes." The words felt impossibly small. Around them, millions of creatures remained perfectly still. Not afraid. Waiting. Waiting for him. That realization settled onto Ethan's shoulders like an impossible weight. He wasn't just responsible for himself anymore. He wasn't even responsible only for Lyra. Every creature surrounding him trusted him without question. Somehow, that terrified him more than the fleet overhead. The gigantic alpha predator lowered its massive head beside Ethan. Its golden eyes never left him. There was no panic. Only absolute confidence. As if the beast believed Ethan already knew exactly what to do. "I wish I did," Ethan whispered. The enormous creature released a soft rumble. Not demanding. Comforting. Lyra watched the exchange in disbelief. "They're calming you." Ethan gave a tired smile. Back home, he remembered childhood afternoons with nervous rescue dogs. Animals can tell when someone's scared. Lyra slowly looked across the endless army. "You mean?" "They're trying to keep me focused." The realization stole her breath. The deadliest predators in known existence were comforting a frightened human. A new vibration rolled through the valley. The ancient monoliths awakened. Deep blue light spread across their engraved surfaces, illuminating symbols that had remained dormant for millions of years. Every creature turned toward them. The light expanded outward like ripples across water. Then, every beast on Caro's 9 bowed. Million. Simultaneously. Not toward the ruins. Toward Ethan. Lyra felt tears welling in her eyes. What are they doing? No one answered. Even Ethan couldn't. Inside the Academy observation station, Professor Varel watched the live feed with trembling hands. His assistants stared without blinking. One young researcher whispered, "That isn't submission. No, it's..." Varel finally understood. They're recognizing leadership. Another scientist shook his head. Impossible. No. Varel's voice had become almost reverent. Beautiful. Back in orbit. Fleet Admiral Korvac watched the same images. He had spent nearly 70 years commanding fleets. He understood fear, obedience, discipline, threats, punishment, power. This was none of those things. Not a single creature was restrained. Not one wore control devices. Not one hesitated. Every one of them could kill Ethan before he could blink. Yet none even considered it. His first officer quietly asked, "Should we continue firing preparations?" Korvac didn't answer immediately. Instead, he kept watching the human. What kind of ruler earns loyalty from monsters? No one on the bridge had an answer. Ethan inhaled deeply. He closed his eyes. His racing thoughts slowed. Bombardment. Millions of lives.
No shelter. No shields. No escape.
Then, he remembered something his father had taught him during hiking trips. When a wildfire starts. His father had smiled while pointing across a mountain valley. Animals don't survive by panicking. They move together. They create paths. They protect the weakest. Suddenly, an idea formed. Not perfect, but possible. He opened his eyes.
Lyra.
She immediately looked at him. "Can your scanner map the bombardment trajectories?" She blinked. "Yes. I need projected impact zones." Within seconds, holographic maps appeared across the valley. Red circles covered nearly every continent. Thousands of impacts. Enough to ignite the atmosphere. Ethan studied them carefully. His expression slowly changed. Lyra noticed first. "What? They're using military logic. I don't understand. They're targeting population density." She frowned. "Obviously. They think we are cities." Understanding spread across her face. "But they don't know how these animals move." Ethan smiled. "No. They're expecting chaos." He climbed onto a massive stone ledge. Millions of eyes followed.
No microphones.
No technology. Only one human standing before an impossible army. He raised both hands. The alpha predator released a deafening roar. Instantly, silence consumed the world. Ethan spoke calmly. "We are not fighting to kill." Lyra translated through the ancient resonance the monoliths somehow amplified. His words rolled across mountains, across forests, across oceans, across every living creature. "We protect each other." The beasts remained motionless. "We protect the young." 1,000 giant predators lowered themselves around nesting grounds. "We protect the injured." Towering herbivores surrounded weaker creatures. "We protect our home." Millions answered with a thunderous cry. Then Ethan gave the command. "Move." The world came alive. From orbit. Dominion targeting computers malfunctioned. Not because they were damaged. Because nothing behaved as predicted. Entire herds split into perfect formations. Flying predators redirected vulnerable creatures. Gigantic armored beasts formed living walls over valleys. Burrowing titans created underground shelters. Ocean leviathans submerged coastal populations. Every movement complemented another. There was no panic. Only coordination. One tactical officer shouted, "They're reorganizing faster than our computers can update targeting." Another added, "Every impact zone is empty before firing solutions finish calculating." Korvac stared. "They are evacuating." "No." The AI corrected him. "They are conducting coordinated defensive maneuver patterns. Against orbital weapons. Without radios. Without command networks. Without satellites. Just one human." Then Ethan did something no one expected. He looked toward the sky. "Open a path." The alpha predator roared. Instantly, the beasts separated. A perfectly straight corridor appeared from Ethan's position to the nearest Dominion landing zone. Lyra looked confused. "What are you doing?" "They have soldiers down there." "So? They're following orders." "They came to kill us." "They came because someone told them to." He looked toward the sky. "I won't punish people for believing lies." Dominion dropships entered the atmosphere. Thousands of soldiers prepared for combat. Every briefing had warned them about savage Deathworld monsters. Instead, they landed safely. No attacks.
No ambushes. No slaughter.
Only enormous creatures watching silently from both sides of a wide corridor. The soldiers froze. Towering predators could have crushed them instantly. Instead, they stepped aside. Making room. One young Dominion private whispered, "Why aren't they attacking?" No officer answered. Because they didn't know. Ethan walked forward alone. No weapons.
No armor.
No fear visible on his face. Only determination. He stopped 20 meters from the 1st Dominion Battalion. Their commander aimed his rifle. "Stay where you are." Ethan stopped. "I will." The commander blinked. "You surrendered?" "No." "Then why aren't you fighting?" Ethan slowly gestured toward the endless beasts behind him. "Because if I wanted a war." He looked across millions of waiting predators. None of you would still be standing. Every Dominion soldier looked behind him. For the first time. They truly saw the army. Not monsters. Disciplined guardians. Waiting only because one human had asked them to. The commander's hands began to shake. Back aboard the Iron Judgment. Fleet Admiral Korvac watched the confrontation. The human had every tactical advantage. Yet he refused to exploit it. Instead, he protected enemy soldiers. Korvac whispered to himself, "Why?" Professor Varel, listening through the Academy's shared emergency channel, answered despite knowing Korvac couldn't hear him. Because he's human. A junior Academy officer suddenly remembered Ethan's entrance examination. He rescued injured competitors. Another added, he refused extra food while prisoners were starving. A third quietly said, he risked himself to save Lyra. The room became silent. One realization spread among every scientist. Humanity's greatest strength was never violence. It was choosing compassion. Even when violence was easier. At that exact moment, the ancient monoliths blazed brighter than ever before. Symbols rose into the air like living constellations. A voice echoed across every creature's mind. Ancient. Calm. Timeless. The strongest hunter is not the one who kills. The light intensified. The strongest hunter is the one others willingly follow. Every beast lowered its head.
Lyra gasped.
The planet. Professor Varel whispered from orbit. It's speaking. The final words echoed across Karos 9. Compassion is the rarest survival trait. Therefore, the entire planet trembled. The king has returned. Every creature bowed to Ethan. Not as a master. Not as an owner. As their chosen guardian. Fleet Admiral Korvac slowly removed his command insignia. He looked around his bridge. "We've already lost." One officer protested. "We still have orbital superiority." Korvac shook his head. "No." He looked at Ethan standing among creatures that loved him enough to restrain themselves. "We lost the moment one man inspired what no empire could command." He activated fleet-wide communications. "This is Fleet Admiral Korvac." Every Dominion vessel listened. "Power down all primary weapons." Silence. Then, one by one, the cannons dimmed. Missile bays closed. Fighter wings returned. The invasion fleet surrendered. Not to superior firepower, but to superior character. Celebration never came. Because before anyone could speak, a new shadow emerged from hyperspace. Then another. Then dozens more. Ships unlike any ever constructed. Ancient. Elegant. Covered in living crystal instead of armor. Every civilization recognized them instantly. Even the Dominion officers stood at attention. Professor Varel felt his heart stop. The council. Lyra stared toward the heavens. They came themselves. Ethan looked up, unaware that the most powerful leaders in the known galaxy had just arrived above Karos 9. And every one of them had come to meet the human the galaxy would never again underestimate. For several long moments. No one in orbit moved. The weapons of the Dominion fleet remained powered down, their once menacing cannons now cold against the endless darkness of space. Hundreds of warships floated in disciplined silence above Karos 9, no longer as conquerors but as humbled witnesses. Below them, the living world breathed. Ancient forests swayed beneath a gentle wind. Crystal rivers shimmered beneath the morning sun. Millions of Deathworld creatures remained gathered across valleys, cliffs, mountains, and plains, not preparing for battle, but watching the lone human standing among them. The silence carried more weight than any victory celebration ever could. It was the silence that followed understanding. The newly arrived Galactic Council fleet slowly descended into high orbit. Unlike military vessels, the Council ships possessed no visible weapons. Their elegant hulls glowed with living crystal that reflected the colors of distant stars. They had witnessed wars. They had judged civilizations. They had united thousands of species. Yet many aboard admitted something privately they never imagined saying. None of them had ever seen power restrained with such discipline. Inside the Council flagship, the Grand Chamber overlooked Karos 9 through a wall of transparent crystal. Representatives from dozens of civilizations stood together. No one argued. No one interrupted. They simply watched Ethan walking among creatures that every military manual classified as unstoppable apex predators. One elderly counselor quietly broke the silence. "We judged humanity by its wars." Another nodded. "We measured them by their weapons." A third lowered her head. "We never measured what mattered." The High Chancellor slowly stepped forward. "Prepare an open transmission. Across the entire galaxy. Every academy. Every military command. Every civilian network. Every major colony. The council interrupted normal communications. Billions looked toward their screens. Students stopped their lectures. Admirals paused tactical briefings. Factories fell quiet. Markets froze. Families gathered around holographic projectors. A galaxy waited. The High Chancellor appeared. Behind him, Ethan remained visible through the observation window, standing peacefully among the giants of Kairos 9. The Chancellor spoke without ceremony. 4 generations. His calm voice echoed through countless worlds. The Galactic Council classified humanity as excessively dangerous. He paused. We were wrong. Those 4 words struck harder than any declaration of war. Around the galaxy, disbelief spread like wildfire. The Council. Admitting a mistake? It had never happened before. The Chancellor continued. We believed strength was measured by domination. We believed survival belonged only to those who inspired fear. He turned toward Ethan. Today, we have witnessed another form of strength. A leader surrounded by creatures capable of destroying entire civilizations who chose mercy. The transmission remained silent for several seconds. Many listening found themselves unexpectedly emotional. Inside the academy, the same auditorium where Ethan had once been mocked was now filled with absolute silence. Professor Varel stood beside the central display. His students stared at Ethan's image. Some recognized the exact hallway where they had laughed as he carried his belongings into exile. No one could meet one another's eyes. Cadet Retha's hands trembled. His voice cracked. I told him he would die. Another cadet whispered, I called humans primitive. Someone else quietly added, he tried to warn us. Every memory became another weight upon their conscience. The academy director rose from his seat. For years he had defended the institution's decisions. Now, he could no longer defend any of them. He activated the academy's official channel. The academy seal appeared across every classroom. His voice carried none of its usual authority. Only regret. Ethan Walker. He stopped, collecting himself. The academy failed you. No one moved. We judged your species before we understood it. We rewarded arrogance. We punished compassion. His shoulders lowered. On behalf of every instructor, every administrator, and every cadet who remained silent, we apologize. Professor Varel quietly closed his eyes. It was long overdue. On Kairos 9. Lyra looked toward Ethan. They are apologizing. Ethan watched the distant projection without changing expression. They don't owe me anything. She looked at him in surprise. They exiled you. They humiliated you. They left you here to die. Ethan smiled faintly. If they hadn't. He looked across the forests surrounding them. I'd never have met these guys. The enormous alpha predator gently nudged Ethan's shoulder. Several nearby creatures released soft rumbling sounds that almost resembled laughter. Lyra shook her head in disbelief. You really don't hold grudges. My parents taught me something. What? Hate is heavy. He looked toward the sunrise. I've carried enough already. The council's primary shuttle landed near the ancient monolith. Its crystal ramp slowly lowered. The High Chancellor himself stepped onto Kairos 9. Gasps echoed throughout the live broadcast. The Chancellor almost never left council space. Yet here he stood, walking toward one human, not the other way around. When he finally reached Ethan, he stopped. Then, to the astonishment of the galaxy, he bowed. Not deeply, not ceremonially, but sincerely. Human Ethan Walker. It is an honor. Even the Dominion officers looked stunned. No political leader had received such respect from the council in decades. The Chancellor looked around at the countless creatures. They have accepted you. Ethan gently rested one hand on the alpha predator's massive neck. I think they accepted kindness. The Chancellor smiled. That is precisely why they accepted you. He raised one hand. A holographic declaration appeared above the valley. In recognition of the ancient guardians of Kairos 9. The words glowed brilliantly against the morning sky. The Galactic Council hereby recognizes Kairos 9 as an independent planetary sanctuary. The creatures remained still. The Chancellor continued. No military occupation. No scientific exploitation. No commercial settlement.
No hunting.
No extraction of resources. No civilization shall claim ownership. The declaration expanded. Instead, the sanctuary shall remain forever protected. He turned toward Ethan. Under human stewardship, shock spread across every military command in the galaxy. A Deathworld. Protected instead of conquered. History had just changed forever. The Dominion officers removed their battle insignias. Fleet Admiral Korvac approached Ethan. He extended both hands in the ancient gesture of surrender. I came to claim your world. He lowered his head. I leave respecting it. Ethan accepted the gesture. No one has to leave as enemies. Korvac smiled for the first time. Perhaps. He looked toward the gathered beasts. That is humanity's greatest weapon. Hours later, the preparations to depart began. Academy rescue transports landed beside the ancient ruins. Medical crews waited. Scientists stood quietly, careful not to disturb the enormous guardians surrounding the landing zone. None of the creatures acted aggressively. Yet none moved away from Ethan, as if every instinct resisted letting him go.
Lira similet sedle.
I think they know. So do I. The largest beast on Karos 9 slowly approached. Its footsteps echoed across the valley like distant thunder. The colossal guardian lowered its head until its enormous golden eye met Ethan's. Neither moved. Neither needed words. Ethan slowly placed his palm against the creature's weathered scales. Take care of everyone. The beast gently leaned into his touch. The surrounding creatures watched silently. Millions of witnesses. Millions of hearts. Then something extraordinary happened. One by one. Across forests. Across rivers. Across mountains. Across oceans. Every creature lowered its head. Not because a king had commanded it, but because a friend was leaving. Professor Varel quietly whispered, "They're saying goodbye." The High Chancellor softly corrected him. "No. They're saying thank you." Ethan finally climbed the boarding ramp. He paused before entering, turning back one last time. The valley stretched to every horizon. An endless sea of life. Every eye remained fixed upon him. He smiled, raised one hand, and waved. For several heartbeats. Nothing happened. Then, the largest guardian slowly lifted its massive head toward the heavens. Its chest expanded. A roar erupted from deep within its ancient soul. The sound rolled across mountains, across forests, across rivers, across oceans. Every creature answered. Millions of voices joined together. Not in mourning. Not in anger. Not in loneliness. In respect. The roar climbed into the sky, echoing beyond the atmosphere itself. Every ship in orbit detected it. Every microphone recorded it. Every civilization heard it. It was not a farewell. It was a salute. Months later, the story of Ethan Walker became required study in every military academy throughout the galaxy. Old textbooks disappeared. Ancient doctrines were rewritten. Generals debated new philosophies. Cadets memorized different lessons than those who came before them. The first page of every military leadership manual now contained a single sentence. A sentence carved beneath the image of one human standing peacefully among millions of Deathworld predators. The greatest leaders are not those who command through fear, but those whom others choose to follow. And beneath it, in smaller letters, was the lesson every cadet would remember for the rest of their lives. Never underestimate humanity.